Hello again, Chris here. Okay, so in this final video, what I want to talk about, as I say, or rather what I want to give you is some tips on lesson planning backwards. Okay, now let's see exactly what that means. We'll look at some steps that you can do. So let me just bring up a slide for that. So bear with me here. Okay, can you see that?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Okay, good. So lesson planning backwards. Okay, as I say, we'll look at a number of steps. And so what's the first step for your lesson? What do you think? What do you think the first step is?
Why would you find my learner objectives?
Before that.
Oh, my topic. I choose a language topic, yeah?
Yes, absolutely, yes. The first thing that you want to do is choose your topic. As we've said before, you're free to choose your topics for your teaching practice lessons. Out in the real world, you know, when you're a real teacher out in the real world, you know, the topic will be set by your course book. Okay, but for the purposes of your teaching practice, yes, choose your topic. Good. And the second step is indeed, Kevin?
Your learner objectives.
Okay, set the learner objectives according to that topic. What do you want the students to be able to do in terms of communication about that topic? What do you want the students to be able to talk about in relation to that topic? So set your learner objectives. Okay, now, from here on, most teachers would just plunge straight into the beginning of the lesson, which, as we know, is the engage stage. Instead, I'm suggesting that you actually jump to the end of the lesson, which is the activate stage. Okay, go straight to the activate stage and think about what activity you can have the students doing that will have them meeting those learner objectives. Okay, that will have them talking about that topic to meet those learner objectives. Okay, so think about what activity they can do to achieve that. So having done that, having identified an actual activity, you know, it could be a role play, it could be a presentation, anything like that. The next thing that you want to think about is actually think about what the students will actually be saying. Okay, think of example sentences of what they would be saying in conjunction with this topic. That then helps you identify what language points you need to cover in the lesson. Okay, it helps you identify what grammar and what vocab the students need to talk about that topic. Okay, in other words, those would be the language points of the lesson. Okay. Any questions so far on that?
Chris, could you give us an example maybe of a language topic and how that might work in a sentence?
Okay.
You know?
Okay. So I mentioned when we looked at learner objectives in the first video, I mentioned a sort of example learner objectives, and that was on the topic of daily routines. Okay, so let's say that in fact that is your topic, daily routine. You want the students to describe their daily routine. So you think about example sentences they might say. Things like, I get up at 6 a.m. Okay, I have breakfast at 7:30 or whatever. And this then enables you to see that, first of all, in terms of grammar, they're using the present simple tense. You can also see that they're using sort of routine activities, get up, have breakfast, things like that. And you can also see a third point, which would be times. Okay, although once you become more experienced, you'll know that times is a very basic language point. By the time they get to talking about daily routines, they will have covered times. So that's something that you actually don't need to cover in your lesson if they've done it before. Okay, so in other words, it boils down to two main language points here: present simple tense and routine activities. Okay, so you can identify that from a few example sentences that you think of. Okay, and so having done that, you can then go back into your study stage. As we mentioned before, the study stage consists of two broad areas. One is your language work, and the other is the practice exercises. And so you need to set your language work. And now, having identified the language points for the lesson, you can now make sure that your language work covers those particular language points. And then, of course, we need to go to those practice exercises. You can either source, you can either find or make your own practice exercises, obviously, that will practice those particular language points. Okay, and then finally, you will move back to the engage. Okay, think of a suitable warmer activity that will have the students talking about the topic, okay, in a general sense. Okay, I know that the book says that the engage does not have to be on the topic of the lesson. Technically, that's true. It doesn't have to be, but it's highly advisable if it is, for two reasons. Okay, one is that it actually gets the students sort of thinking about the topic, thinking about what's coming, and it allows you, as the teacher, to be able to see what the students already do and don't know about that topic. And of course, it makes your transition from that into the study stage that much smoother. So it's highly advisable to have your engage on topic. So think of a suitable warmer about the topic. Any questions about that?
No, it's pretty clear.
Is the warmer usually just like a elicitation exercise?
Yes. There are a number of different warmers that can be done, as you saw in Unit 3 in the online course, or the ESA unit. What I find works very well for me is to have a sort of Q&A type session based around some visuals. Show some visuals connected with the topic and ask the students a few questions about them. Not just sort of what they are and so on, but perhaps their own experiences of these things. For example, perhaps if your topic is transport, not only would you elicit what the picture shows, what form of transport the picture shows, but perhaps how often they use that form of transport. Where do they go? Do they like this form of transport? Why? Why not? A few questions like that really pad out the engage to, around 10 minutes or so.
Okay.
Good question. Any others?
I'm good.
Okay, so that's all I want to say then on planning backwards. I hope that helps. And that's all for now. And I'll see you all again in the teaching practice. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.